When we talk about standards, I want you to understand something powerful. Your standards set the tone of your entire life. They dictate how people treat you, what you accept, and ultimately what you attract. Think of them as the thermostat of your life. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. And if your standards are set too low, you'll find yourself constantly dealing with disappointment, frustration, and a sense of being stuck. It's not because you're unlucky, it's because you're tolerating things you shouldn't. Here's the truth. People don't give you what you deserve, they give you what you accept. If you keep showing the world that you're fine with being treated halfway, you'll keep getting halfway. If you show that your time isn't valuable, people will waste it. If you keep staying silent when someone disrespects you, that disrespect will only grow louder. But the moment you raise your standards, you send a message without even needing to say a word. I won't live at this level anymore. And life listens, people listen, opportunities listen. Now, let me be clear, raising your standards isn't about arrogance or walking around thinking you're better than everyone else. It's about recognizing your worth and no longer apologizing for it. It's about saying, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table. And I refuse to lower my bar just because it makes someone else comfortable. When you do that, you stop begging for energy that was never meant for you, and you start attracting relationships and opportunities that reflect the respect you show yourself. Think about it, the friendships in your life, the relationships you're in, the job you keep. Those are mirrors of your standards. If you're surrounded by people who don't support you, don't value you, or drain you, it's not just about them, it's about what you've allowed. And I know that's hard to hear, but it's freeing once you realize you have the power to change it. You don't need to convince people to treat you better. You need to decide that you won't be around people who treat you worse. The higher you set your standards, the more natural it becomes to filter out what doesn't belong. Low standards invite chaos, confusion, and pain. High standards invite peace, clarity, and growth. It's like cleaning out your closet. At first, it's uncomfortable to throw things away. You think you might need them one day, but once you let go of what doesn't fit, you make room for something better. Your life works the same way, and here's what's amazing. When you raise your standards, people around you adjust. The ones who care about you will rise to meet them. The ones who don't will fade out. Either way, you win, because you're no longer living beneath yourself just to keep others happy. You're standing at a level that demands respect, and that's exactly what starts coming back to you. So ask yourself today, where am I lowering my standards? Where am I letting things slide that I know deep down I shouldn't? Because those are the exact places you're keeping yourself from the life you want. The moment you refuse to settle is the moment you unlock a better version of yourself. And once you do that, everything around you has no choice but to rise with you. One of the biggest traps people fall into is negotiating with their own worth. And I don't just mean in the big moments where someone is asking you to take less than you deserve. I mean in the little moments too. Every time you tell yourself, it's not that big of a deal, I'll just settle. Or maybe I'm asking for too much. You are bargaining away a piece of your value. And once you start negotiating with your worth, life will keep sending you situations where you feel like you have to compromise who you are just to fit in. The problem with this is that once you begin lowering your price tag, so to speak, you teach others to expect a discount version of you. You teach them it's okay to give you less effort, less respect, less love, and you'll still stay. And over time, you stop even realizing you're doing it. You convince yourself that being treated halfway is normal, that having your needs brushed off is just part of the deal, that putting yourself last is somehow noble. But it's not noble, it's costly. It costs you confidence, it costs you peace, and eventually, it costs you the life you're meant to have. What you have to understand is that your worth is not up for negotiation. It's not something that can be bargained down like the price of a used car. Your worth is fixed, and it's high. And when you start living like that, you stop wasting energy trying to prove yourself to people who were never going to value you anyway. You stop trying to convince someone to see what's already obvious, that you bring value, that you matter, that you are enough. And here's where the shift happens. The moment you stop negotiating with your worth, you stop over-explaining yourself. You stop chasing after people to validate you. You stop justifying why you should be treated right. Instead, you live in a way that says, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and if you can't meet me here, then you don't get access to me. That kind of energy is magnetic. It's not loud, it's not pushy, it's calm and unshakable. It's the quiet confidence that people are drawn to because they can feel you won't tolerate being undervalued. Think about how different your life could look if you decided today that you would no longer argue with yourself about your own value. No more maybe I should just accept this. No more maybe I'm too much. Because the truth is, you're not too much. You're just giving too much of yourself to places that don't deserve it. And every time you do that, you leave less of yourself for the people and opportunities that actually align with you. When you stop negotiating with your worth, you give yourself permission to walk away from situations that don't serve you. You stop clinging to crumbs and start demanding the full meal. And here's the beautiful part. Once you do that, the world around you begins to adjust. The people who can't meet your standards naturally fall off, and the people who can rise to meet you step forward. That's how you start attracting better, not by fighting for it, but by refusing to settle for less. The moment you stop bargaining with your worth is the moment life stops giving you discounts and starts giving you what you truly deserve. Raising your standards doesn't always happen with one big decision that changes everything overnight. More often, it's built in the small boundaries you set day after day. It's the quiet choices that nobody else may notice, but they stack up and eventually shift the entire direction of your life. People often think they need some grand breakthrough moment to finally take control, but the truth is, it starts in the little things, the way you speak to yourself, the way you let others speak to you, and the limits you set to protect your peace. Think about how many times you've said yes when you wanted to say no. How many times you've allowed someone to push past your comfort zone because you didn't want to seem difficult. How many times you've let your own needs slide to the bottom of the list because it felt easier than addressing them. Those moments may seem small, but they're powerful. Every time you let it slide, you're teaching yourself and everyone around you what your standards really are. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about pushing people away. They're about protecting what matters most to you and making sure you're not giving pieces of yourself away to things that drain you. A boundary can be as simple as choosing not to answer the phone at midnight when you know you need rest. It can be saying, I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. It can be carving out 30 minutes a day just for yourself, no matter how busy life gets. These things may feel small, but they send a loud message. My time, my energy, my well-being matters. When you start practicing those little boundaries consistently, you'll notice how quickly your life begins to change. You'll notice you're less exhausted because you're not pouring yourself into everyone else's bucket while yours is empty. You'll notice you have fewer toxic interactions because people realize they can't cross the same lines with you anymore. And you'll notice a growing sense of respect for yourself because every time you hold a boundary, you prove to yourself that you're worth protecting. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first, especially if you're not used to it. Some people may push back when you begin to set boundaries they're not used to seeing. They may call you selfish, or act distant, or make you feel guilty. But understand this, their reaction is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of how much they benefited from you not having boundaries before. Stand firm anyway. The people who truly value you will adapt. The ones who don't were never meant to stay. Small boundaries create big shifts because they ripple into every area of your life. When you start saying no to things that drain you, you make space to say yes to the things that grow you. When you stop allowing others to cross lines with you, you start surrounding yourself with people who naturally respect them. When you choose to protect your energy, you attract relationships, opportunities, and environments that match that same level of respect. You don't need to overhaul your life in one day. You just need to start with one boundary, one choice, one small standard that says, I value myself enough to protect this. Because every time you do that, you shift the entire standard of your life upward. And when enough of those small shifts add up, you'll look back and realize everything around you has changed. When people think about raising their standards, they usually think about how others treat them. And yes, that's part of it. But what's even more important is how you treat yourself, because that sets the standard for everything else. You can't expect respect from others if you're not showing respect to yourself first. And one of the clearest ways we show self-respect is through self-discipline, the habits you keep, the promises you make to yourself, the way you carry yourself every single day. That's where your standards live. Self-discipline isn't about punishment or living a joyless life. It's about creating structure that supports the kind of person you want to become. It's choosing to do what's right for you even when it's not easy, even when nobody's watching. Think about it. How many times have you set a goal for yourself and then let it slide the moment it got uncomfortable? How many times have you told yourself you'd start tomorrow, or next week, or after things slow down? Every time you do that, you're sending yourself a message that your own word doesn't matter. And if you don't trust yourself to follow through, how can you expect others to trust you either? The truth is, discipline builds confidence. When you say you're going to do something and then actually do it, you're proving to yourself that you can rely on you. That consistency becomes a quiet strength. It's not loud, it's not boastful, but it's powerful. And it spills into every area of your life. When you have discipline with your time, people learn not to waste it. When you have discipline with your energy, you don't let yourself get drained by things that don't serve you. When you have discipline with your goals, opportunities come your way because people recognize your focus. And this is where the shift happens. Self-discipline is self-respect. You can't claim to value yourself while constantly breaking promises to yourself. You can't say you want better while living in habits that keep you stuck. If you truly want to raise your standards, start by raising the standard for how you show up for yourself. Wake up when you said you would. Do the work you promised you'd do. Take care of your body and your mind, not because it's trendy, but because you value yourself too much to neglect them. It doesn't have to be about massive changes overnight. It's about building trust with yourself in the little moments, choosing the water over the soda, putting your phone down and focusing on your priorities, showing up 5 minutes early instead of 5 minutes late. Those little disciplines build into a life where you no longer settle for less because you don't treat yourself as less. And once you start living that way, you naturally begin attracting people and opportunities that reflect that same energy. People are drawn to those who are consistent, who are grounded, who clearly value themselves. Because when you carry yourself with discipline, it shows. It's in the way you speak, the way you act, the way you handle challenges. It shows that you're not easily swayed by distractions or temptations because you've built a standard that's stronger than convenience. And that kind of energy is magnetic. The reality is, you set the tone for your own life. If your habits are sloppy, your results will be sloppy. If your habits are strong, your results will be strong. Discipline is the bridge between the life you have and the life you want, and it's the clearest signal you can send to yourself and to the world that you deserve better. One of the hardest parts about raising your standards is letting go of what no longer serves you, and I get it. That's not easy. We get attached to people, to routines, to comfort zones, to versions of ourselves that we've outgrown. We tell ourselves, maybe it'll change, maybe it'll get better, Maybe I should just hold on a little longer. But the truth is, if something is costing you your peace, your energy, your growth, then it's already too expensive. Holding on to it doesn't protect you, it only delays the life that's waiting for you once you release it. We have this fear that if we let go, we'll be left with nothing, that walking away means we've failed. But walking away is not failure, it's freedom. It's saying, I know my value, and I won't waste it on something that can't rise to meet me. Think about it. How many times have you held onto a relationship, a job, or a situation long after you knew it wasn't right for you? How much energy did it take just to keep it alive? How much of yourself did you lose trying to force something that was never meant to last? That's the cost of holding on too tightly. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you create space. Space for peace, space for joy, space for the right people and the right opportunities to come in. Because here's the thing, you can't fill a full cup. If your life is overflowing with things that drain you, there's no room for the things that will actually fulfill you. Letting go is not about loss. It's about clearing the clutter so you can finally receive what you've been asking for. And yes, it hurts sometimes. It hurts to release someone you love who doesn't treat you the way you deserve. It hurts to walk away from a job that provides security but steals your soul. It hurts to say goodbye to a version of yourself that's familiar but no longer aligned with who you're becoming. But that pain is temporary, and on the other side of it is growth. On the other side is a life that feels lighter, freer, and more in tune with who you really are. You can't move forward if you're always looking backward. You can't step into a new chapter if your hands are still gripping the old one. Raising your standards means making peace with the fact that not everything and not everyone can come with you. Some people were only meant for a season. Some habits were only meant for a phase. Some chapters were only meant to teach you a lesson before you turn the page. And when you stop trying to drag the past into your future, you'll realize you weren't losing anything. You were making room for something better. So ask yourself, what am I holding onto that I already know is holding me back? Is it a toxic relationship, a negative environment, a belief that tells me I'm not enough? Whatever it is, recognize that it doesn't serve the higher version of you. And the sooner you let it go, the sooner you make room for what does. Attraction is not about effort, it's about alignment. So many people spend their lives chasing relationships, chasing approval, chasing opportunities, and in the process, they forget that the most powerful things in life aren't chased, they're attracted. You don't see a magnet straining to pull something closer, it just draws it in because of what it naturally carries. And the same is true for you. When you raise your standards and start living in alignment with them, the things that match your energy start coming to you without you having to run yourself ragged. Chasing is exhausting. It's convincing, it's begging, it's bending yourself out of shape to fit where you don't belong. And even when you get what you've been chasing, it rarely feels good, because deep down you know you had to sacrifice pieces of yourself just to keep it. That's not love. That's not success. That's survival. But when you're aligned, when your words, your actions, and your standards all match, you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop proving and start receiving. Alignment looks like living in a way that reflects what you say you want. You can't say you want respect while tolerating disrespect. You can't say you want love while settling for neglect. You can't say you want growth while clinging to comfort zones. The universe doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you stand for. And when you finally stand firm in your standards, life starts shifting. The people who can't meet you where you are drift away, and the ones who can rise to your level appear. And here's the beautiful thing, you don't have to force it. You don't have to beg anyone to see your value or chase down opportunities that don't fit. When you're aligned, the right people, the right doors, the right moments naturally find you. It feels easier, lighter, because you're not carrying the weight of pretending anymore. You're simply being who you are, and that authenticity draws in everything that matches it. Think about the times in your life when you've been most at peace with yourself. Maybe you weren't perfect. Maybe you didn't have it all figured out. But you were living true to what you believed, and good things seemed to flow toward you. That's not an accident. That's alignment. And the more you build your life on that foundation, the less you'll feel the need to run after what was never meant for you. This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means the energy behind your actions is different. You're no longer striving out of fear or desperation. You're moving with clarity and confidence. You're not chasing because you're afraid of losing. You're attracting because you already know your value. That shift changes everything. It changes the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you handle setbacks. It creates a calm strength that people feel the moment they're around you. So stop asking, how do I make them see my value? And start asking, how do I live my life in a way that shows it? Because when you're aligned with your own standards, you don't have to convince anyone of anything. The right people will recognize it, the right opportunities will align with it, and the wrong ones will quietly fade out.